I just want to clear something up. After the last episode, we got a few comments that broadcasting the phrase, our underground laboratory in the Ozarks, might tip off some of the people trying to find us as to where our underground laboratory might be. So, whoops, it sure is a shame that all those people trying to shut down VS Labs for our dubiously ethical scientific experiments and alleged crimes against nature know where we are. I guess there's no stopping them. They're very likely to find us now when they search the Ozarks, because that's definitely where we are. This is Vaguely Scientific. Did you know that I am Derek?
No.
Well, now you do. And knowing is half the Jim the Scientist. Hi, Jim.
I've been bisected the wrong direction.
That's good. This public service announcement was brought to you by Chris. Hi, Chris.
Side effects of bisection may include pupil dilation, time dilation, machine gun sweating, vomiting. There's like 12 pages here with just vomiting on them.
Oh, no.
And unnecessary repetition.
And page 6 is actual vomit on it. Great. Moving on. How are you guys?
Good. Except for the bisection.
I gotta wash my hands now.
I mean, slap a Band-Aid on that. It'll be fine.
Yeah. I got super glue. It's fine.
Jim, remind me what you consider the wrong direction to be bisected in.
Up and down.
Up and down? Okay.
Yeah. If you get bisected like across your torso, like you might live. You won't have leggies, but you might live.
That's why I think it's the wrong direction, because I'd rather.
Right, yeah.
But that gives you a nice new cute nickname, like say Torso Boy. So what are you complaining about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now that our introductions are out of the way, I want to point out that this is the show where listeners send us questions to hear vaguely scientific answers, and who knows, some of those answers might even be right. But first, it's time for Jim's Fun Science Fact of the Day. Jim?
All right, this one's really fun. Botulism is not caused by the botulinum bacteria itself, but rather the botulinum toxin that it releases. The toxin blocks nerve function, which effectively induces paralysis, and it is such a strong effect that it would actually stop a person from being able to breathe.
Ah.
And apparently, if you inject it in your face in the right amount, it gets rid of wrinkles.
Yeah.
Ask all of Hollywood.
That's what I know.
I actually, in researching this, I found out why it does that. It's because it paralyzes some of the muscles in your face so they relax.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Doesn't that mean that, like, it is still kind of indirectly caused by the bacteria?
Sure, but it's not like a bacterial infection where it's like...
Gotcha.
But
that is an important distinction.
I always thought, up until I looked into this, that the reason that the Botox thing worked was because it, like, swelled your face up. But no, it's just relaxing the muscles, which I did not know. I thought that's kind of weird.
I knew it had something to do with paralysis, which is why I always thought it was, like, a silly thing to do.
Yeah. It's a weird choice.
C'est la vie, I suppose.
Yeah.
It is certainly a choice.
Yeah.
Me, I'm just going to age naturally. I'm going to accept it.
Yeah.
I've been trying to, but I keep going backwards.
The only problem is if I could figure out how to get my goatee to actually gray over rather than just have this like patch that's there.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to watch a really scary movie.
Oh, that'll work too.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll make you go all white all at once.
I'm not much of a horror fan, though, so...
well, there you go. It'll work really well.
It'll be more effective.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we do have some questions that were submitted for this episode, so I think I'm going to open up the first one here. Question 1 this week is, if a meteor is careening toward Earth, how long before it hits would we know? Also, what would we do to stop it?
This is a fun question, not just because I like space, but also because it's a question that is one of those things that not only do people focus on quite a bit, but they've also made tons of movies about.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. 2 that I can think of right off the top of my head are Deep Impact and Armageddon.
Yeah.
Armageddon's kind of infamous for being... Let's just say Yeah, not the most scientific movie, perhaps.
What?
Right.
That's what I got my doctorate in, is the movie Armageddon.
Oh,
Ah,
wow.
good work.
Nice.
I invented that doctorate.
They just give those out for anything nowadays.
Yeah. But I mean, there's something about drilling a nuclear bomb in the middle of a meteor and blowing it up. And the idea being that, we'll split it in half and make it miss the Earth.
Well, yeah, because it would go off, the Earth would be right in the middle, in the eye of the hurricane, as it were.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
I mean, it makes sense, but scientifically, would it work?
Well, that doesn't. I don't know about that.
Well, so one of the things that I was looking at was that if you catch the meteor early enough, you not that you wouldn't send a person there and like have them drill into the asteroid and blow it up. That's a choice. But but I was actually reading about the idea that they can use a nuclear weapon, not hit it, but explode it nearby, and the shockwave could push it just enough off course that it would miss the Earth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But one of the most important things about that method is that you have to do it early enough that it, diverts it so that the angle is enough that it will get out of the way, basically. Like if it's close enough, then that's not going to do anything.
And with a nuclear weapon, there's always a chance of fallout if it gets too close anyway.
Yeah.
But of course, if a meteor's that close, nuclear fallout may be the least of your problems.
Yeah. Some of that fallout may just burn up in the atmosphere as the meteor comes down on you.
So what I was reading was, I guess this made sense, but I didn't really think about it. Detection time specifically, you basically have more time if the meteor is larger.
Yeah.
But that also kind of then means there's less you can do about it.
Yeah.
So longer to know of your impending doom versus unavoidable, but you don't know about it in time.
Right.
Impending doom. It's win-win.
I put a link in a shared chat. NASA, of course, is watching the skies, and they've got, now it's for an asteroid watch, which asteroid, meteor, different things, but the idea is the same.
Yeah. Big space rock.
Yeah. They talk about how they find those things, and also perhaps more importantly, there is a link on there that shows the next 5 asteroid approaches.
Ooh.
If you scroll down towards the bottom.
Oh, look at this.
And as of time of recording, the next asteroid is scheduled to be around sometime tomorrow.
That's
are all awesome. Now, for the listener, we are recording June 26th.
Yes.
So, yeah.
There are 2 of them coming nearby.
Mm-hmm. The 28th has a few, and then the 20... we should update this when we release the episode.
One of the things I think is cool about this is it gives you an approximate, human scale, like bridge size, airplane size. These are all airplane sized, except for the bridge sized one,
which is 7,200 feet. That's a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, one of those, what have we got? 210, 7,200, 120, 160, 200. I mean, the smaller ones might just burn up in the atmospheres, especially the one that's scheduled to come, one of them that's scheduled to come 2 days from now. It's only 120 feet.
Yeah.
Getting 1.85 million miles close to Earth. That's pretty close distance.
That's a respectable, I mean, that's, it's a safe distance, but it's also a little bit on the close side. The moon's only 240,000 miles away, so it's only a few moon radii away.
Yeah, I mean, that's close, but not that close.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about celestial distances, that's close.
Yeah.
And then there's the big boy that's 7,200 feet.
Yeah. But that one's 4 million miles away. It's fine.
We're fine. We're perfectly fine.
No problem.
So these are things that we know are not going to impact Earth. They're not
this
going
time.
to collide. Right. So
at least assuming we did the math correctly.
Well,
Right.
that's fair. But so assuming we did the math correctly, it seems like we actually would have a fair amount of forewarning if one was likely to hit Earth.
There's one that has made, I think it's made a couple approaches that is named Apophis, I think is what it's called. Yeah, Apophis. And that one is pretty big. It's 1,100 feet long, so not quite as big as the bridge-sized one here, but definitely big enough to flatten a city. And as I understand it, this particular asteroid is, because of the way that it keeps missing Earth, it's changing its orbit every time it comes by. And so in a few hundred years, there is a concern that this asteroid could actually have its orbit changed enough that it could hit Earth, which I think is really interesting and also sobering.
Let's see here. Caused a brief period of concern in December 2004 when initial observations indicated a probability up to 2.7% that it would hit Earth on April 13, 2029. That is from the Wikipedia article on
That is not as far in the future as I was led to believe.
Uh-oh. Is that up to date?
That's the date that's on the Wikipedia article. Apparently, they redid the math. And it's like, oh, it's not going to hit us.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that is the case. I always hear about that one as like the one that everyone's a little bit concerned about, though. And that one was discovered, I guess, 20 years ago now. But one of the ones that's making it made a fairly close approach back in January of 2023. That one is actually much smaller than any of the ones on this list. That one, they said, is the size of a box truck. So one of the things that I was looking into is just sort of how small we can detect things. And apparently things that are small enough that they will not cause any problems, like a box truck sized asteroid is going to burn up. Like that won't be a problem at all.
I'm also looking, they have a scale for collisions with a rock. It's called the Torino scale.
Ooh.
It says the Torino scale uses an integer scale from 0 to 10.
Oh.
0 indicates an object has a negligibly, I can English, small chance of collision with the Earth, compared with the usual background noise of collision events, or is too small to penetrate Earth's atmosphere intact. A 10 indicates that a collision is certain, and the impacting object is large enough to precipitate a global disaster.
Ah, interesting.
So I'm looking at this, and if I'm reading this scale right, okay, this is interesting because the integer is a combination of the probability of impact and the kinetic energy, how many megatons it's going to hit with.
Okay,
so it's not linear or anything like that.
Yeah, so basically if it's very, very small but certain to hit, it could still be a 0, even if it does hit, because it's not going to do anything.
Exactly. On the other hand, if it's really large, but really small or really large but not going to hit, that's also a 0.
I imagine that the dwarf planet Ceres is probably a 0 on this scale.
Yes.
I'm kind of looking at there's a list of what the various numbers sort of mean, and I'm kind of curious whereabouts the Tunguska impact would have fallen on this. Oh, I see. The Chicxulub impact that exterminated the dinosaurs, that's a 10, of course. That makes sense.
Yeah. Chelyabinsk meteor in 2013 had a Torino scale of 0.
Okay.
Because it only had a kinetic energy impact of about 500 kilotons.
Yeah, which is a lot, but
yeah,
it did kind of burn up pretty high up in the atmosphere.
For comparison, the biggest bomb we ever created, Tsar Bomba, 50 megatons.
I just made a discovery.
Okay.
What's that?
So I wanted to look up what NASA was actually had in place for if this were necessary.
Mm-hmm.
NASA has a lot of monitoring that they're doing, but they don't actually have a foolproof way of redirecting it. The best thing they have right now is something called DART, which stands for Double Asteroid Redirection Test. But this is very important. I would like both of you and the listener at home to Google Double Asteroid Redirection Test.
Okay.
I didn't know about that. That never gets old.
So what happens is a little satellite goes across the screen and the whole search engine tilts. The first time it happened, I missed the animation, and I was just like, "Why is my screen sideways?"
Yeah. One of the things that I think is really cool about that particular test is that it did work.
Okay.
Yeah, it was they targeted a binary asteroid system, and basically they did a kinetic impactor on the smaller, sort of the one that was the moon, I guess you would call it. And it slowed, I think it slowed its orbit down. It changed its orbit in some capacity. I can't remember if it sped it up or slowed it down, but it did change its orbit markedly, which I think is really, really cool.
The idea is just getting a structure close enough to it to shift the gravity so that it goes the other way.
Yeah.
Veers to the side.
Honestly, it's just momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all of Newton's 3 laws of motion rolled into one. It's eminently doable if you find the asteroid.
Well, that's why detection is important. So my question, I think maybe we touched on this, but going back to what was it, Armageddon, the scientifically accurate movie?
Yes.
I think it was Jim who mentioned like sending someone to drill a hole into it, and this may be a moot point, I suppose, but like if a meteor is going to hit Earth, or an asteroid or whatever, a big thing is going to hit Earth, would we get to it in time?
I feel like you would have a chance, because I think that a fairly large number of the big, like, planet killer type asteroids are pretty well documented at this point. Like, I'm sure we don't know all of them, but anything on the scale of like a dinosaur killer, we know a pretty good number of the ones that are out there. So the question is then, how long do we have after we discover it? And the answer is it depends on which one you're looking at. Right. We may not have found the one. Who knows? There could be one coming at us.
Yeah, but theoretically, something that big, we'd probably be able to spot pretty easily, I would hope.
Yeah. There's a lot of really cool things that we've come up with in the last 20 years that have really expanded the number of asteroids that we know about. And not only is it something that NASA and European Space Agency and all the other space agencies are working on, but there's also a really big citizen science component to it. So a lot of people are just using their backyard telescopes and looking for various things in the sky, just not even just because they want to protect the Earth, but also because it's just fun to discover something. You get your name attached to it. So you may not get to name it, though.
Right. That we had looked that up before, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't there a whole committee for that?
Yeah. So there was a popular trend going on in 90s television where a lot of plot lines were if you discovered a new star, you got to name it whatever you wanted. And that, as far as we could tell, was never based on anything.
Right, yeah. Once you find it, there are a couple really clever things you can do. If you've got a while, like if you have more than a couple years or something like that, one of the things that I've heard about for a very long time, which I think is really, really cool, is to paint the asteroid. If you paint like half of it black and half of it white, for instance, the difference in the amount of thermal energy that it absorbs from the sun will actually nudge it. And a very small scale version of this exact same thing is what are they called? I want to say they're called radioscopes, but that seems wrong. Hold on, let me Google this.
It's like interplanetary Othello.
Yeah, it's kind of that. Yeah, it's not a radioscope. Spinning black and white thing.
Is your search term actually spinning black and white thing?
Yeah.
That's why I was laughing.
Radiometer, that's what it's called.
Did that really give you that?
It did. Well, I the first one didn't, when I just put spinning black and white thing, but when I put spinning black and white thing from sunlight, that did give me what I was looking for. So the radiometer, apparently it's also called a light mill. I didn't know that. But radiometers are exactly this. There are four little plates inside of this light bulb shaped thing. One side of the plate is
Oh,
black.
one of those.
Yeah. And because of the way the sunlight pushes against it, because of the black color, it will accelerate this little spinning thing. And you could do that to an asteroid. And
it has to be in a vacuum, right?
yeah, and it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if an asteroid would be in a vacuum. So.
Sure.
Or close enough to one, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about those.
So
Those
if you
things are
have
neat.
if you have a pretty good amount of lead time, that's one thing you could do to like nudge an asteroid without breaking it is very important. It's ideally you don't want to break an asteroid because the little pieces you don't know where they're going to go.
Well, the alternative would be to pulverize it,
That's also true. Yeah, if you could
Because-
break it really completely.
and then Earth's atmosphere takes care of the rest, and you get a nice fireworks show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how Armageddon ended, wasn't it?
I think
I thought that was Independence Day.
I can't remember which of these movies I'm thinking of anymore.
I know that it takes quite a significant mass to make it to Earth because things are going to burn up in the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
So how I assume vary, but I just want to ask, how common is it for like asteroids? Asteroids? I don't
Yeah.
know, meteoroids to attempt to get to Earth, I guess.
They're trying.
They're trying real hard.
Yeah. If I recall, I'm going to Google this in just a minute, but I'm going to say it because I think I'm right. If I recall, I think that roughly 100 tons of matter falls to the ground every single day. And I mean, most of this is like the size of a grain of sand, but like
Okay.
Yeah.
a lot. There's a lot of stuff coming down.
Now we see if Jim was right.
48.5 tons. Is that 100? Wait, what did I say? 100. I said 100 tons. This is 48.5 tons. So half of what I said.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you were just estimating, though.
I thought I heard 100. Maybe it's like 100,000 pounds or something like that. Is that what 48 tons would be? 100,000? No, that's not right. I don't care anymore.
2,000 times 50.
Oh, maybe that is
Actually, it
100.
would be about 100,000.
Yeah, so it's
pounds.
100,000 pounds, not 100 tons. Okay.
That may have been what you said. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. We'll fix it in post. Anyway, but 48 and a half tons every single day. And that's like all very small stuff. But,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Did you just get the same alert?
Did you just get a tornado warning?
Yes.
I did just get the same
Ooh.
alert.
It's probably past me. I did not get that.
I'm going to look into this is what I'm going to do real
Yeah.
quick. Because that's no good.
We're also at a decent time. I don't have anything else on this topic. We're at a decent time. We could wrap up. So does anybody have anything they wanted to add?
There were a couple things I wanted to touch
Cool.
on real quick. I have sort of like a laundry list of things we could do to this asteroid to like
Okay.
move it out of the way. I mean, some of these things we did already touch on, but one of the other ones that I saw was to use an Earth-based laser. It would have to be a pretty high wattage laser, but you could use that laser to very gently sort of like push against it. And basically what you'd be doing is the laser would kind of like hit the asteroid and it would ablate some of the surface and that would push it backwards or push it off course, basically.
Mhm.
Something that I think is very ingenious, but I think would take a lot more work than it's worth, is something called a gravity tractor.
I read about that.
Yeah, which would be parking a small object close to an asteroid and using the gravity from the small object to like tug on it very, very slowly.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ever popular Archimedes death ray, which is very similar in concept to the laser, except it would be in orbit and it would like ablate the surface and push it away.
Would that actually work, though? Didn't Mythbusters test that? And
I think it would have to be much bigger than the one. And the thing is, it doesn't have to destroy the asteroid. It just has to push it, basically.
okay.
Yeah, a little bit of that light pressure, maybe a little bit of surface ablation. We'll see. But the last one that I want to mention, which is a perennial favorite, is to just bolt a huge rocket engine to it.
I have a similar idea in theme, not in practice, I suppose. But I was thinking, so we have the moon, right? I think we build a few more of those,
Mhm.
and then we have like a goaltending structures around the Earth. It's just like we have some bodyguards.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I think we should do. Build more moons.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically.
And build a mass driver. Just chuck a couple of moons at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
I don't know why we're not doing this. I think it's a good idea.
I mean, yeah.
I also, because I was talking to somebody about cold fusion a little while ago, and I was like, why don't we do that?
Well, there are a lot of reasons.
That seems like a good thing to have.
I am looking into this tornado situation, and I'm gonna say maybe let's take a pause, and after this tornado warning, maybe is it all right if we come back?
Yeah, probably. How long is that going to take?
Probably
half
not
an
long.
hour, maybe.
Yeah, it's set to expire at 8, so.
Well, since there was no interruption in continuity and nobody's power went out, I think we should just move on to our second question for the week.
Yeah,
Sound good?
let's do it.
Yeah,
All right,
sure.
Cool. All right, question 2 this week comes to us from Jonathan. What could you add to real-world food to get stat buffs, like food in RPGs?
Ooh.
Well, we need stats.
One of the things that the Pokemon is very, very famous for is that you can feed Pokemon things like protein and iron and other various like actual vitamin-esque things, and that buffs their stats. So, I don't know, just eat a bunch of protein. It's good for you.
Right. I was thinking just minerals and vitamins and stuff. I wanted to bring up, there is an old PlayStation 1 game called Air Guys, which was mostly a fighting game that was subpar, but it had this like RPG mode dungeon crawler kind of thing to it. And something about leveling up your characters, you had to pay attention to like things like lipids and minerals and stuff. And when I was a kid, I didn't understand it. And I thought, oh, there's got to be some real deep thing to it that's just over my head. And now that I am an adult, I just think it wasn't a very good game.
It really wasn't. It really wasn't. I mean, the big thing about Air Guys was it had Final Fantasy VII characters in it.
Yeah, that was the draw.
Cloud, Tifa, and Sephiroth specifically, if I remember correctly.
Oh, wow.
And Zack. You could be Zack.
Oh, could you be Zack?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There was and Vincent and Yuffie.
Huh.
They had a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like it was...
Oh, wow. I don't remember
weird.
all of them.
Yeah. There were it was also unnecessarily complicated to unlock everything, but I don't know. My brother and I were big fighting game people, and Dave loves Final Fantasy VII, so of course we had the game, and of course we had everything unlocked. And
yeah,
that's not the only RPG that I wanted to reference, though, with unconventional stat buffing things, because Jim already made the point that I was kind of already thinking is minerals and vitamins and stuff, and I looked at how there are a lot of RPGs with temporary stat buffs.
Oh, okay.
And I was, of course, looking at things like metabolic steroids and PCP.
Yeah.
Right? But the big thing about those is when you think of like a potion of strength or a potion of speed or something, you don't think about downsides. Which, of course, steroids and PCP have significant downsides.
Yeah. You can take heroin for your cough.
Right.
It is very famously a pretty good cough syrup.
But I wanted to say, I think that it's really interesting when games do like stat buff things that also come with some negatives. And the big one that I wanted to point out was Fallout. Because they have genuine drugs as your stat buffing mechanics in those games, and they all have downsides, including addiction, which I think is a neat thing to explore. In, like, this question kind of explores that, like the real world equivalent.
Yeah.
To.
You know, that's fair.
Yeah.
Shadowrun is much the same way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
They have drugs that you can take to boost some of your stats, but there's always a side effect. I'm looking at the 6th edition book right now, and there is a drug called Kamikaze. Effect: +1 body, +1 agility, +2 strength, +1 willpower, +2 d6 initiative, high pain tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tailored combat stimulant, and when it wears off, the user crashes and suffers -1 reaction, -1 willpower, and fatigued 2 status for twice the duration of the drug's effect.
Yeah.
And they also suffer 6 stun damage unresisted. Repeated use has a destructive effect on the user's metabolism. Large doses can cause excitement, tremors, momentary euphoria, and dilated pupils. Excess doses cause anxiety, hallucinations, uncontrolled muscular movements. Even higher dosages lead to death. So yes, you can kill yourself by taking combat drugs in Shadowrun.
How many pages of vomiting are on the side effects list?
None, but I imagine. I don't.
It's gotta be, right?
There's gotta be.
But I imagine there's some GM out there who's going to go like, "Oh yeah, now you're vomiting for the next 6 hours. Have fun."
Yeah.
Now, I want to bring. I think the most popular RPG system, obviously, is Dungeons and Dragons, which is what most people know about. I don't really know about people who listen to this show, because I know a lot of people who listen to this show know a lot of different game systems, but in Dungeons and Dragons, whenever you have like a potion, like stat buffing things like that, what we're thinking about magic, which I guess therefore doesn't require a negative to it. But essentially what we're talking about with this question, how could we make this like cure-all stat buffing kind of thing that just makes you healthier, right? And I want to introduce both of you to something you may not have heard of before. It is called snake oil, and so what it does, it can help you grow your hair if you're going bald. It helps tone muscles. It'll clear up asthma. All sorts of.
I hear they just take the snakes and wring them out like a wet washcloth.
Yeah, it's an involved process, but that is simplifying it for sure.
I mean, I've heard that it works for all kinds of things.
Oh yeah, rheumatism, arthritis,
rheumatoid arthritis.
If you got a frog in your throat, it'll clear that right up, clear your sinuses out, cleans your sheets. It's
cleans out your colon.
Cleans out your colon. It's good for making windows spotless. It's really just a panacea.
Oh, just like urine.
Gives you all
just
sorts
like
of
the ammonia in urine. Yes. That's a good callback, Jim.
Yeah. The thing that I like best about the whole thing that just transpired is that I could imagine there being a situation where there's like the placebo effect that just because you've drank it, it makes you feel very good, even though it's genuinely not doing anything at all.
Yeah. Well, snake oil salesmen, they would obviously have shills, but they would also rely on that to, word of mouth and stuff.
So would those be actual stat boosts, or are those just temporary stat boosts?
I don't know. Is that like a psychological stat boost? Like it puts you in a passive mood or something? It like raises your morale?
Yeah.
So are we getting into skill boosts as opposed to attribute boosts?
Oh, okay.
Well, I've had many arguments with people that I have played various games with, because I've always made the argument that while drunken boxing as a monk style is a cool idea, and I love Jackie Chan, I've always said that like alcohol doesn't actually give you a buff to like your dexterity or your charisma.
Yeah.
It just makes you think you have a buff to your charisma.
Right.
And it does not give you a buff to your dexterity. It gives
sure
you a
doesn't.
penalty to your dexterity.
And I had a whole tirade one time about somebody said their character got drunk, and it was like, what does that do for me? And I'm like, it makes you drunk.
Yeah.
What do you want? I don't know.
It's going to reduce your dexterity. I should know. I remember someone's wife's 21st birthday party when I managed to fall upstairs because I was drunk.
Yeah, those were good times.
Those were good times.
Not that you remember any of them.
Oh, no, I remember that one specifically. I do remember that one specifically. I've never been blackout drunk. I've been kind of close, but not blackout.
Yeah, I never have actually either. But I also have never fallen upstairs, which is a shame. I wish I could say I have.
I feel like, I mean, I've never been any kind of drunk, but I feel like I've fallen every way on stairs you can.
Oh yeah, and I've got low dexterity to begin with, and this was before I destroyed a knee.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, didn't that happen during the run of the show?
It did.
It was the first episode I was on this show was episode 32.
Oh,
I remember that because I recorded it laid up in my bed with my whole leg wrapped up.
Ugh. Oh man, we have good times.
We do.
That wasn't one of them, but
that wasn't one of them.
It's important to remember we do have them. That wasn't one. Another thing I was thinking about was coffee and caffeine in general. I mean,
yeah,
that I feel like is one of those things that is weirdly close to like a temporary stat buff effect where it reduces your tiredness.
Right.
And I mean, caffeine is not actually making you more alert. It's not giving you energy. My understanding of what it does is that it just sort of like blocks certain receptors that involve the chemicals that make you sleepy. So,
well, now, like, think about if we're translating stat buffs to the real world, think of like how encompassing that really would be. Because like, we're not talking about just, oh, your athletics goes up. We're talking about like actual muscle growth or like your immunity to diseases. So like medicine, all kinds of medicine is kind of just buffing your stats.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, and the caffeine giving you more energy, vitamin D. And then here's another thing that I think is kind of interesting. The feeling of being hungry and the feeling of being tired is not just because you have a lack of food or a lack of sleep. There are actually chemicals that make your brain feel those things.
Yeah.
So
Melatonin.
like melatonin, and I forget what it is for hunger, but like just because you haven't eaten, like you won't have energy, but there is an actual chemical that tells you are hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which maybe is tangentially related to the question, but I thought it was interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that the idea of like these, I mean, I think they generally have to be something that's relatively temporary, unless you're talking about things like steroids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, even those are relatively temporary because if you want to keep the boost, you have to keep taking them.
Right, right.
Well, that's a good point there, because like we're also like all stat buffs and just your physical health is temporary. And when we're thinking of like characters in an RPG, they level up. They just keep getting better and better, and there's never any degradation to that. So that
your physical health is temporary.
I mean, it is. Maybe that was a
depends on the system, though.
Oh,
I know
that's true.
Some systems they have rules for like, oh, you're getting older. That means okay, your int and your wizard are gonna go up, but your strength and your dex are going down.
I guess Pathfinder is like that.
I don't know of any of them specifically, but I know they exist.
Sure.
And of course, they can exist in any system if the DM says, "Hey, I want to do this."
True.
And the players are like, "Yeah, we want to do this too."
Your character is 90. You have 3 levels of exhaustion by default.
Yeah. If you reach the age of 100, you die.
That's it.
Yeah.
No saving throws.
No saving throws on death saves after 100.
Yeah. The speaking of like RPG systems and things like that, it's interesting how many DMs or just GMs, game runners, whatever you want to call them, depending on the system, sort of just skip past the general need for things like food and water because it's mechanically important, but it's also just kind of like, that doesn't add to the game in any way. It's just sort of assumed that it happens.
Yeah, it's one of those, we don't want to keep track of all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of, it varies from game to game, but like there are ways to do it to make it interesting. Like in my opinion, if you do a time jump or something, then it's a reason that your characters lost money is because they had to live, and that gives you incentive to go out and do adventuring.
Yeah.
But this Air Guys thing that I mentioned, where you have to keep track of a balance of lipids and proteins and minerals, like you can definitely go too far, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to think of things that are a little bit more dramatic, because it's fun to be dramatic.
Sure.
And like if you and I would never recommend doing this, but if there was a way to like safely ingest sulfuric acid and it gave you some kind of superpower, you can't and it won't. But like I was thinking about a lot of the things that would kill you immediately, but it could give you really cool powers if you were living in like a Marvel DC setting.
Right, like gamma radiation.
Yeah. That wouldn't kill you instantly.
Okay, but it won't turn you into the Hulk.
Not instantly.
No. It would kill you in a very unpleasant way over the course of a few weeks if you got enough of it.
Now, so what I don't think there is a thing. I guess maybe like bath salts or something. I don't know. Because the way that you just phrased that, a chemical that if you ingested in a fictional comic book universe.
Yeah.
Like, is there any, because there's fictional chemicals that like gave the Flash his powers and a spider serum is like made of something we don't know, and the Joker toxin, which we've talked about before. Like when we actually analyzed what one comic book said the Joker toxin was made of, we realized very quickly if it was that, he'd just be dead immediately. So like, this is a very roundabout question. Is there something that you could eat that would kill you, but assuming it didn't, would like give you powers? Like, what is that question? I don't know.
It might depend on how much of it you have.
That's true.
Okay.
There could be a sweet spot.
I'm thinking about the saying like a medicine in too high a dose is poison.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, water in too high a dose is poison.
Yeah. And we need that to live.
Yeah.
Well, so that, yeah. And I can think of maybe like mental things, like things that help you focus or something like that. But I guess steroids is that.
Yeah, because you take too many steroids, it'll kill you. And there's the side effects, which roid rage exists for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a weird, because I mean, the first thing that I think of is like zombie stories that are, and I bring up Fallout again, like the idea that nuclear radiation causes mutations of some kind, but like that's not really superpowers.
No, I mean, I suppose there would be a chance, like, if you mutated in just the right way, you could get superpowers, but what are the odds?
Yeah.
Right.
That's like, there was that episode of Family Guy where they all got superpowers, and Adam West was like, well, I gotta clearly go get some superpowers of my own so I can stop them. So he goes to like some chemical dump, and then it like immediately smash cuts to him in the hospital. It's like, Mayor West, you have lymphoma.
Yeah, that's exposing yourself to microwaves to give yourself power. Like, no, don't do that. There's a huge disclaimer on this episode to the listeners. Don't do any of the things that we're talking about.
No, seriously, don't do it. Bad idea.
This episode or like the whole show?
Well, we've said some things that are good ideas at some point, I think.
We've said things that will not result in immediate death over the course of the last 153 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't think I have. Some of the other panelists might have, but I usually like to consider myself a fan of bad ideas.
Go big or go home, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the other things I was thinking about over the course of this of researching this is just the fact that, like, when you take vitamins, the typical dose of vitamins is so high in, like, because, for example, I because of the fact that we get like 3 sunny days per year, I'm pretty low in vitamin D. And my doctor is like, you really need to take some vitamin D because you're tired all the time. And there's a good reason for that. But like the vitamin D tablets that I take are like 1,000% the daily recommended dosage. And almost all of it just gets peed right out. Like, it doesn't get absorbed. It's not like bonus vitamin D. You get so many, like, when you take any vitamin supplements, you get so far over what your body can actually need or want. It's kind of ridiculous.
Because you have to take things in. There's a certain efficiency that your body can utilize this stuff.
Yeah.
That's like the difference between buying toilet paper in bulk and buying milk in bulk.
Yeah, but but vitamins are one of those things. Yeah, you can overdose on vitamins.
Yeah. Was it vitamin A that's really bad for you if you get too much of it?
What I'm looking at, there's symptoms of vitamin A toxicity.
Okay.
Let me put another link. I'm just full of links tonight.
All right, The Legend of Zelda.
Vitamin A toxicity commonly affects the skin, causing reddening, irritation, and patchy peeling.
Ooh.
Chronic excessive supplement use may lead to more severe symptoms, including pressure changes in the skull, vision changes, irritability, nausea, and vomiting. I'm going to call back that joke as much as I can. Good. Dizziness, headaches, hair loss, muscle pain, mental confusion.
Jeez.
People treated with retinoids can, I'm not sure what that is, can have elevated triglyceride levels that can cause liver damage, bone loss, and other consequences.
Ugh.
A unique symptom of excess beta-carotene consumption, called carotenemia, causes a yellow or orange coloration of the skin. But this condition is reversible and not dangerous. So in other words, if you try to eat your body weight in carrots, you're going to turn orange.
Hey, guess what? My sister did that when she was a baby.
Oh, really?
Awesome.
Yeah. We were really worried that she had jaundice, and it turns out she just ate carrots way too much.
Okay.
Well, carrots are good, so
that
makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's see. So talking about other vitamins, B1 is not known to be toxic in high doses. B2 has not been shown to be toxic in high dosage. B3 may be toxic. Prolonged overuse of vitamin B3 can cause liver damage. B5 not toxic. B6 has a recommended daily amount, but it doesn't say anything about toxicity. B7 not shown to be toxic in high doses. Although, if you're pregnant, it may pose a risk to the developing fetus.
Ooh, interesting.
B9 is not toxic in high dose.
It's very B9.
I know where you live, Jim.
Yeah, but I'll have eurned it.
I thought that one was funny.
Hey!
That joke.
B9 not generally toxic in high doses, although it can obscure symptoms of pernicious anemia.
Ooh.
B12 not toxic.
Why are there so many Bs?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
That would be a good question for another episode.
Yeah.
I think.
Bees?
Let's see.
It's gotta have something to do with the chemical makeup of it or something.
Probably. C is not normally considered toxic, but large doses can affect digestion, causing diarrhea, cramps, and nausea.
Well, sure, yeah. That's eating too many oranges. Give you the runs.
Yeah. Oh, here's some stuff for detoxicity.
Oh.
kidney stones, nausea and vomiting, constipation, excessive thirst, excessive urination, mental confusion, weight loss.
Well, I guess don't take the whole bottle of B vitamins and expect any good to come from that. Or D, I'm sorry, D.
Yeah. E is more study needed. Apparently, there's some evidence that excessive doses can raise the risk of prostate cancer.
Ooh.
May also contribute to the risk of bleeding.
Just bleeding in general, like you don't clot?
It also all it says is it also may contribute to the risk of bleeding when taking other medications. Talk to your healthcare provider about taking it while receiving cancer treatment.
Oh.
I don't like the phrasing on that. Just bleeding, like you're just gonna start bleeding.
When taking other medications. So
I wonder if it's like an internal bleeding kind of thing.
Maybe.
Like,
yeah.
That's not better.
It's not comforting, no.
It's not a comforting
Yeah.
thing to think of. I don't know.
And then doesn't really say anything about K, but you want to avoid K if you're taking blood thinners. Like, say you have had a blood clot in your leg after knee surgery, and you're taking Eliquis. Ask me how I know.
How do you know, Chris?
Because that's what I was told.
Yeah. I think that it's really interesting that the conversation went this way, because it's, again, one of those things where it's like everything that is good for you can be very bad for you if you take too much. Not everything, but like things that you sort of take for granted as being pretty good for you, like vitamin D. You take too much and that's not good for you at all.
No.
Yeah.
And conversely, things that you take that are bad for you could potentially be good? Question mark? Looking at you, botulism toxin? Question mark?
Something I didn't actually mention during the fun science fact portion, this is the bonus fun science fact, is there are treatments for migraines, for chronic migraines that use Botox.
Oh, interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So there are some good uses for that, but you have to use the right amount and know what you're doing.
I feel like I just...
Don't just take a swig out of a dented soup can.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to argue with that on that one.
Important life tip. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. See, this show does have things that are not dangerous.
Yeah, see? We give good advice by saying don't do the terrible advice.
Yeah.
I was just looking up a list of D&D potions that are like in the rules. And one I settled on here for this idea is called the Potion of Vitality.
Okay.
It removes any exhaustion you are suffering and cures any disease or poison affecting you. And for the next 24 hours, you regain the maximum number of hit points for any hit die you spend. And it describes what it looks like. And I was thinking it might be fun to play in like a grimdark kind of setting where like there's a character who has a bunch of these potions of vitality, but if they don't have them, they have detrimental effect. Like they start getting exhausted because they go through withdrawal for it.
Okay.
And that would be the Fallout version.
Yeah.
It's like, can people be addicted to health potions?
There was an arc in Hello from the Magic Tavern where that happened.
Okay, that sounds like something they do.
I mean, you could probably be addicted to just about anything.
Yeah.
Even something good. I mean, there are people who are addicted to exercise.
Well, yeah, there's mental addictions versus
physical addictions, yeah.
Yeah.
Habit forming things.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely one of those things where it doesn't have to be a chemical dependency for you to just want to keep doing it. So
yeah. Exercise isn't a bad one. I guess it can be. You can over-exercise.
I mean, sure, if you get like hurt and stuff.
Yeah, you could over-exercise and tear something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of people who are like insanely fit, but they keep looking in the mirror and thinking they're not like big enough. Like, is that an addiction? I don't know if that's an addiction.
I mean, from a certain point of view, I'd say yeah.
Okay, dictionary.com. What's your definition of the word addiction?
I feel like we've done this before, and I can't remember why.
Addiction, the state of being compulsively committed to a habit or practice, or to something that is psychologically or physically habit-forming. As narcotics, to such an extent that its cessation causes severe trauma.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it might be the last part that's the important part.
Yeah.
If you stop doing it, you get something bad happens.
Yeah, and with chemical addiction, that would be like the withdrawal state, but like
right.
People, yeah.
Psychological addiction, it may be your mental state that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think the bottom line is there's no good way to boost your stats in real life.
I mean, the bottom line for me is that like translating stats is like a nebulous
fair
idea. That's kind of where I got hung up, because I feel like we kept talking about drugs and vitamins, and it's like that's technically true. Like that's technically what we're emulating in a game system.
Yeah.
So
I like that this episode managed to turn into a list of like side effects. I don't know why, but that is extremely funny to me.
I cannot claim credit for that. I can't. I just adapted it because
sure, but then the back half of this episode, we were looking at the side effects from taking too many vitamins, and that's just very funny to me.
Well, it was a public service announcement from the beginning. I mean,
yeah.
Here's the title of this episode may have to be "Side Effects Include."
I was actually thinking that may be what I call it. Yeah.
All right, listeners, this week, I don't know, ask your doctor if Vaguely Scientific is right for you.
What are the side effects of being hit by an asteroid?
What are the side effects of being... everyone would probably die.
There's one side effect. Death.
There we go.
Yeah.
Death, the ultimate side effect.
The ultimate side effect.
Honestly, I would just upgrade that to effect.
Effect, yep. That's just the primary effect, right? The direct effect.
Yeah.
Side effect may be that some people don't die. I don't know. Hey.
Side effects may include getting a rock in your eye as you are evaporated.
So, listeners, if you have any thoughts on any of that, let us know. Keep the conversation going. You can let us know about it by sending an email to feedback@vaguelyscientific.com. You can also go and comment on our blog. You can like us on Facebook and send us a message there. You can tweet @vaguelysci. Yeah. Hey, Jim, where do we get all these wacky questions?
We get them from those very same listeners you just told to have them email us. And if you, the listener, has a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, please email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and all the other great places the cool podcasts like to hang out. And subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out, and so does telling your friends.
Tell all your friends.
Everybody. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Shout it out to some random guy in the back street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli, and don't forget to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. We just mentioned everyone would probably die, and we have that on a shirt, or whatever design you want to stick it on, it's fine.
Yeah. So thank you to Chris for being our guest this week.
Mm-hmm. Always a pleasure. I need to go back to that base we definitely don't have.
Yeah.
I think might be still one or two robots left.
Oh, it's definitely in the Ozarks.
Yeah. Right, the Ozarks.
And I'm not saying that out loud.
No, definitely not. I'm not hearing what you're saying.
I have heard nothing. I've seen nothing. I know
saw
nothing.
Yeah, I hear nothing.
For Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
I'm Chris.
And now it's time for whatever you want to do. The show is over.
Toodaloo, everyone.
See ya.
Good thing we're not on the moon.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I've never been to the moon.
I didn't just finish clearing up a bunch of robots up there.
No.
Definitely not. No.
That did not happen.
Oh, shoot, the microphone's still on.
You didn't hear that.
Wink.
Wink, wink, nuts, nuts, say no more.